Thanks to everyone who has viewed these videos so far, who's checked out my channel, subscribed, liked, maybe soon people will comment too, whatever you want to do to help support. In this lesson, I am going to try and break music apart to make it accessible to people. Now let's consider this. When we make ourselves a nice dinner, maybe a nice pasta dinner, we've got a series of ingredients, right? We've got the pasta, we've got the sauce, then whatever's in the sauce. Now, if we wanted to describe, explain what is in that meal, what's going to happen is we're going to use words like that things are maybe tangy, or maybe things are bitter or sweet. Those are ways of describing what we're eating, what we're tasting, the flavors, and how they feel. And of course, to everybody, flavors are different and provoke different emotional reactions. Now, if we want to make a meal, we know what the different ingredients will instill in us emotionally. We know what the flavors taste like, but we still have to have an idea of the building blocks to create a recipe. Now, I propose to you that music is no different. To create music, there are ingredients. There are elements that will create different flavors, different textures, and bring about different emotions when they're mixed together in some kind of structured fashion. Now, I'm going to give you 4 of those elements, and I talked about them in my last video, Music as a Language. Now, those elements are time or rhythm, melody, notes in time individually, one at a time, harmony, more than one note at a time, and tone. Now, we all know what time is. It's when we establish some kind of agreed upon pulse, usually measured in beats per minute, that we then use to create different rhythmic ideas. Think of a drummer and what a drummer does. Now, I'm a bass player, so time is very important to me. So I'll listen to the drum kit and I'll see what tempo the drummer establishes. And then I will react rhythmically to that tempo. Maybe I'm thinking of his kick drum. Maybe the beat is boom, boom, or kick, snare, kick, snare. Not even thinking about whole notes and half notes and all that stuff. I'm just thinking about the time and what the drummer is doing in time. And then maybe I'll play a part based on that time. Kick, snare. Now you'll notice I didn't speed up or slow down. That's because I agreed on the tempo that the drummer established. We'll talk about time in future videos. Now, melody and harmony, let's talk about those today. We'll save tone for a different time. Now, I'll just tell you, when I was doing this, I was muting my bass. I was dampening the notes. They were like ghost notes, barely audible. That was a technique to create a tone, a certain flavor. Now, if I played without muting, that's a different tone. When I slap, that's a different tone. So we're not going to talk about tone today. And we're not going to talk about time too much. We're going to talk about melody, and we're going to talk a little bit about harmony. What I'm going to try today to give to you is a very practical tool to learn harmony. Now, I don't want to assume that you know anything or what these words even mean, so I'm going to start from the most basic fundamental understanding. What is a note? A note is the sound of a vibration vibrating a certain amount of times, okay? Now, you may have heard of A440. Basically, what that's telling you is if you take a string or any object and you vibrate it, if it vibrates 440 times in a certain amount of time, you're going to audibly hear the pitch or note called A, okay? E is a name for a different amount of vibrations. Now, all you need to know at this point in time is that when I tune my strings, whether it's my bass, my guitar, my piano, or my vocal cords to a certain amount of vibrations per second, I am producing a certain pitch or a certain note. Luckily for us, the way of naming these notes is rather simple. It's just A, B, C, D, E, F, G. There's no H, I, J, K, there's no LMNO. Just A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Those are our notes. Now, the way that we produce those notes is by tuning our strings or our vocal cords, or even the sound of a woodwind instrument, a horn, to produce air vibrations that will sound like that particular pitch. That's why we tune the bass or the guitar using a tuner or a tuning fork that matches those vibrations. So, on a stringed instrument like the electric bass, on one string, the way that we separate these notes is by something called intervals. And intervals are the distances between notes, or to be really simple, the distances between vibrations. When I tighten the string, the notes get higher. When I loosen the string, they get lower, just like my vocal cords. When I'm tightening them up, it goes up. When I'm loosening it, it goes down. Same thing when we tune an instrument. So we're tuning to these specific pitches, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I'm going to use my A string to demonstrate, which on this bass is a 5-string electric bass. The 3rd string from the bottom is called A. Just focus on that for now. The way that we measure intervals in music is through something called semitones and tones, or better yet, half steps and whole steps. On a fretted string instrument like the electric bass or the guitar, the distance between 2 frets or 2 boxes is always a half step. Therefore, when I skip a fret, it's a whole step. So I'm going to start from my open string, which means no frets. Here's an open A. Now what you need to know is the distance between A and B, the next letter in the alphabet, is 1 whole step. Here's A. I skip the 1st fret because the distance between the open string and the 1st fret is a half step. I skip that fret and I go up to B. So here's A, I go up a whole step to B. The distance between A and B is a whole step. Now the distance between B and C in the musical alphabet is a half step. It's right next to it. A to B, whole step, I skipped a fret. B to C, half step, it's right next to it. The distance between C and D in music is a whole step. So here's C, I skip a fret to go to D. The distance between D and E, whole step, I skip a fret. The distance between E and F is a half step, right next to it. You might recognize that. F to G is another whole step. Now once I get to G, there's no H, there's no I, J, K, L, M, N, O. You go right back to A. The musical alphabet recycles itself. So here's G, and I go a whole step to get back to A. So on one string, it's A to B is a whole step, B half step to C, C whole step to D, D whole step to E, E half step to F, F whole step to G, G whole step to A. And I can go down. A whole step to G, G whole step to F, F half step to E, E whole step to D, D whole step to C, C half step to B, and B whole step to A. The only 2 sets of notes that have a half step between each other are B and C and E and F. A to B is a whole step, always. B to C is a half step. In fact, they're right next to each other, so they're called natural half steps. B to C and E and F are natural half steps. Therefore, A to B is unnatural, there's a whole step. And C to D is a whole step. So what do we do with these notes in between A and B? Well, we're going to plug in a note. Here's A, whole step to B. What about this guy, the 1st fret? What note is that? Let's add 2 new words to our vocabulary. Sharp and flat. Think of sharp like a point, up. Think of flat like a flat tire, down. When I say sharp, for now, I just want you to think that sharp means up a half step and flat means down a half step. Therefore, when I start on A, I know that if I go to B, it's a whole step. If I start on A and I go up a half step, I'm a half step above A, call it A sharp. Now, therefore, if I'm on B and I go down a half step, I'm on B flat. It's the same note. A sharp and B flat are interchangeable. A to B is a whole step. The note in between is A sharp or B flat. So here's the cycle. This is referred to as chromatic movement, half steps. The chromatic scale is all half steps. A to A sharp or B flat, you can use both for now. B flat and then B. What comes after B? Well, C, half step away naturally. Now, is there a such thing as B sharp and C flat? Technically, yes. If I go from B to C, I can actually call that C a B sharp, or I could call that B a C flat. I have to know that when I say B sharp, I mean C, and when I say C flat, I mean B. All I want you to know is to stick with A as your starting point, then the note in between is A sharp or B flat. That takes us to B, and then C is right next to it. Then C sharp or D flat is right next to that. Then D is right next to that. D sharp or E flat is right next to that. E is right next to that. F is right next to E, natural half step. F sharp or G flat is right next to the F. G is right after the F sharp or G flat. G sharp or A flat is right after the G, and then I'm back at A sharp or B flat, B, C, C sharp or D flat, D, D sharp or E flat, E, F, F sharp or G flat, G, G sharp or A flat, A. You can practice naming the notes going up sharp and down flat, and then the other way around. A sharp B, C, C sharp D, D sharp E, F, F sharp G, G sharp A flat G, G flat F, E flat D, D flat C, B flat A. Okay? Practice that and get used to naming the notes. That's just on one string. Now, for you guitar and bass players, or for really any instrumentalist, here's what I want. I want you to practice that simple scale in time. Give yourself a beat and name the notes. And not only play in time, I want you to play different tones. Watch me. There's my beat. Keep that click in your head, that pulse, that tempo. A sharp B, C, C sharp D, D sharp E, F, F sharp G, G sharp A flat G, G flat F, E flat D, D flat C, B flat A. And you can start this alphabet on any string. Here's the G. G, G sharp A sharp B, C. You're starting at a different point in the musical alphabet. You never go to H, you never go to I. One more thing you need to know. When there's no sharp or flat, that note is called natural. So A is just A natural, which is then followed by A sharp or B flat, which is followed by B natural, C sharp or D flat, D natural, etc. Practice naming the notes, but anything you practice, if you get nothing more out of my lessons, practice in time, give yourself a groove, play with feeling, and make it fun. Here's my demonstration. I'm going to put a beat on. A little fast, but that's okay. I'm going to try and make this fun. A simple chromatic scale. Here we go. So even though I was just practicing chromatically, and man, do I make stupid faces. Oh, even though I was practicing chromatically, okay, I had fun with it. I put a beat on, and I jammed. I'm going to go slower. I hope you've enjoyed this lesson. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, share it. Go nuts. Sharing is caring. I really appreciate you even watching this. There's so much content on YouTube. It's absolutely amazing, and it can be overwhelming. But I just want to give you guys some practical tools to make music. Have fun. Like, comment, subscribe, and have fun. Have fun, and don't forget to have fun.